Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today we're talking about more Night Wanderer cards or Shrouded Fable cards. Shrouded Fable will be releasing on August 2nd internationally. It's an international set, and Night Wanderer is the equivalent set, I believe. I think they're almost identical, releasing in Japan on June 9th. So that's actually coming up pretty soon. So we will see a lot of these cards revealed very soon. I mean, we've seen a bunch revealed already. And down below in the description, I will have a Google Sheet which has all my like rankings of the Night Wanderer cards. And one of the cards that I looked at before, actually, I will need to look at again because there's a new card that's going to help it a bunch. But anyways, first we got Genesect here with it's a metal type, basic. Its stats are it doesn't really matter to be honest. I guess one retreat matters here, but Ace Canceller, as long as this Pokemon has a Pokemon tool attached to it, your opponent can't play any 8-spec cards from their hand. There was a Spiritomb like this back in the day, back in the olden days with the old Ace specs, and it did not have to have a tool attached, I believe. And it might have stopped your Ace specs as well. I don't remember, but that was played a little, but I think that this is not super good. I mean, it's kind of annoying. You could play this in control to counter Prime Catcher, and I think that's the best use of it. You're looking at like what tool do you want to attach. You could do Rescue Board to give yourself free retreat and act as a pivot and have some value there as well. But really just stopping a once per game effect, which isn't like it's not usually super game defining aspects. I mean, they can like win games definitely. You're looking at stuff like Unfair Stamp, which really can be really annoying to have to deal with and really powerful. And then Prime Catcher, which is like really good. It can win games and it can buy you time. It can do a lot of different things. Secret Box can bail you out of bad scenarios. The one thing I'm not so sure. Oh no, yeah, no. So you can't play from your hand, so your opponent can still Lugia V-Star Legacy Energy into play, which is annoying. But if it ever ends up in their hand, then they either have to like Iono it or judge it back into their deck, or they just can't play it. They'll have to like discard it. So I think this card's all right. I don't think it's complete trash, but it's not so good, right? Um, it's a card. It's a combo that you need to counter just one card in your opponent's deck. And if you're ever building your deck that's completely around an ace spec, that's not usually good, except for in the case of Legacy Energy, which isn't. Well, one, that's a little risky if you prize Legacy Energy, but Lugia uses Legacy Energy a lot. It's so good in that deck, and it's not stopped by this. So this Genesect, I think, is not very good, but it might end up seeing some play. It's not that committal, right? You just need to play this in a tool, and it's not like bench space is a big issue right now. Its HP also isn't that low where it's just getting absolutely destroyed by Dragapult, so this card isn't terrible, but I guess it does counter Neo Upper Energy from Dragapult, which could be nice, but I don't know. I'm not a big fan of this card, and I don't think most people are, from what I've seen either. Next, we got Bloodwind Ursaluna. We got an EX, now we're getting a single prize. This one's fighting, 150 HP for retreat, so whatever stats. Not the best in terms of retreat, obviously, but 150 HP, it's solid. And it's fighting, as I said, and its ability Rule of Thumb. Once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, you may attach up to 2 basic fighting energy cards from your hand to this Pokemon, which is pretty interesting. We've seen this on Galarian Zapdos from, I believe, Evolving Skies. And that card was it wasn't the best, but it was okay. And we saw similar abilities on similar Pokemon as well, the other two Galarian birds. But here we have an attack Mud Bite for fighting colorless. You do 100, but it does 30 more for each damage counter on your opponent's active. This is interesting. Obviously, this can one-shot stuff if your opponent's damaged some, but it's okay. It just seems okay. You could build a deck around this with like Iron Valiant EX and this, right? You could also pair this with Hisuian Arcanine V, which moves energy around, or Blissey EX, which moves energy around. Hisuian Arcanine V moves the energy to itself. But this is kind of interesting. I don't think it's a bad card, but I don't think it's that good. Honestly, it's probably around just because the Genesect. They're very different cards, right? This is just like a mediocre attacker and like energy accelerator to itself, which can be useful because there are ways to move energy around, but it's certainly not a bad card. I think it's kind of fun, kind of all right. I think finding weakness is it's okay, but not super crucial. And then you obviously need the damage counters on if you are attacking with it, because just doing 100 for 3, even though it's kind of like 100 for 1, it's not that good. 100 for 1 attachment for turn because you can accelerate the other two. And you can get the energy in hand pretty easily with Earthen Vessel, so that's not that big of a deal. But overall, I'm not a massive fan of this card. You could play this in a Lost Zone. There are use cases of this, though. I think it's all right. Next, we got ourselves a bunch more cards here, including oh, we got Peckrin EX. This one we've seen before, but it's here. It's got a new art, which is it's just cool. Um, but yeah, and then we got ourselves some other two stage two lines. First of all, we got a Horsey Seadra Kingdra line. The Horsey Seadra are not very good, although fun little art. But we got Kingdra EX, and this Pokemon is really interesting. You got Royal Orders. For 1 water, put up to 3 water Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench. And this cannot put Palafin EX onto your bench, by the way. But this is interesting. It can accelerate stage 2s, I guess, but saying accelerate, you're not actually putting them into play faster because, I mean, they're stage 2s like Kingdra EX, so you could just get them into play instead. But this is interesting. You could do Bexcalibur with this, and that we'll see is like a pretty logical combo. And you can get the 2 Bexcaliburs into play and then just put them on your bench, and that's pretty interesting. You want 2 probably because it's your attack and they can guess stuff 1, and you are falling behind. You'll be attacking no sooner than turn 3 with whatever you accelerate to because you need to turn 1. You can evolve immediately, and then you turn 2 go ahead and use Royal Orders. But then in turn 3 you could use Hydro Pump here, which does 50 and 50 more damage for each water energy attached to this Pokemon. This is kind of like Chien-Pao EX as well. And I think this card's okay with Bexcalibur as like a not so focused. You're not rare candying your Bexcaliburs, which is actually kind of nice because then they can't be TM Devolutioned, which is actually a big issue for Chien-Pao. Some people are playing TM Devolution for a variety of different reasons, including to get knockouts, but it's pretty nice to just really mess with Chien-Pao. It's really rough. If your opponent like TM Devolution, say 3 times, which is a lot of deck space, but then you essentially just win because if they don't have any um, Bexcaliburs, then they lose. In addition to this, you don't discard the energy, which is nice, and you have a lot more HP than Chien-Pao, so you could just do this with Bexcalibur and just a bunch of rare candies. I don't think this is great. It's kind of clunky, but I don't think it's a bad card either. Next, we got a Zubat, a Golbat, and we also got ourselves a Crobat. This Crobat, I'm just gonna say, there we go, I can see it. It's not very good. But we have 130 HP, which is bad. We do have free retreat, which is nice. And resistance to fighting, which doesn't really matter, but it is a thing. And then we got Shadow Envoy, which says once on your turn, if you played Janine's secret technique from your hand during this turn, you may draw until you have 8 cards in hand. That supporter has like, it's an okay supporter, but it doesn't have a lot of synergy with Crobat, I guess. It's weird. So Crobat's attack here is 120 for Darkness Colorless, and your opponent's active is now poison. Put 2 damage counters on it instead of 1 between turns. But that's just not very good. It's not like the worst attack ever, but it's not good. And so the fact that you have to play the supporter to access your draw engine is super risky because essentially it's kind of like Revavroom where you need a certain card in your hand for your draw engine to work, which means that that's a bit of a problem because if you don't have that card in your hand, then you don't have a draw engine. And if you have the card in your hand that you need, then you don't really need the draw engine anyway. That's not exactly true. You still want to draw more cards, but it's more of like what people call a win more card, where if you already have what you need, it's really good. Or on the other hand, you might not even need the supporter. The supporter does something we'll talk about, but in a deck where you want the supporter, I wouldn't play Crobat because unless there's another Crobat line, that's to be the only reason. And then it is pretty good as another option in a Crobat-based deck where you do want to play the supporter, but that's so niche. I don't think this is very good. Next, we come to an A-Spec. This A-Spec is terrible. Dangerous Laser. I love the name. I think it's kind of fun, and I like the art. It's kind of silly. But it says it's an item. Your opponent's active is now burned and confused. That's terrible. That's like so bad. It does 20 and then they retreat. Like this is so bad. We've obviously seen Maximum Belt, which is a damage buff and the closest card to compare it to. But this is terrible. Like yeah, I don't really know what to say about this. Maybe there's some like weird thing. You compare this with the Psyduck deck, if you saw that video, I made a deck with Psyduck, so you could do this, but that deck was terrible. That was like the worst deck I've ever played, actually, I think, because it essentially just didn't do anything all game. So, Dangerous Laser, is not good, right? This ace spec's so bad. I don't think anyone's ever gonna play this unless there's some weird combo with it. And I've looked through these cards. Maybe there's some reason to play that if we get like some insane burn deck where burn's doing massive amounts more damage or some weird confusion based thing, but this seems terrible. Yeah, this seems bad. As I said, you have the side deck thing, the side deck if you saw, and you could loop this, but that seems really bad. Um, yeah, okay. I don't know. It's just not good. Next, we got Nightly Stretcher, which is kind of a weird name. Like, what's a Nightly Stretcher? Anyway, um, so choose one of two. Put a basic Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, or put a basic energy from your discard pile into your hand. And obviously, it's an item. So this is pretty interesting. We've seen other recovery cards, but I think this card is actually pretty solid. Recovering one Pokemon is nice. There are cards that recover multiple Pokemon, but oftentimes you just want one. Um, you're okay with just one, and that's kind of what you need this turn. And then putting a basic energy from your discard pile into your hand is okay. It's a nice consolation prize in times when you don't like need the Pokemon and you have this card, and it can be useful in scenarios. So I don't think this card's super good. Obviously, recovering two with energy retrieval is better. Four with a superior energy retrieval, having to discard two is also generally better than energy retrieval. But yeah, this card's okay. I honestly don't know how to feel about this. I looked at these cards before the video, um, and I don't know how good this card is. I really just can't put my finger on it how good it is, which is weird. Like usually I'm pretty, I just have an opinion on how good it is, but I don't know how good this is. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts down below on Nightly Stretcher because it seems all right. Like there are definitely times when I like it, and it's pretty good. I don't think it's going to be a terrible card. I think it'll be okay, but it could be really solid as well. It could just be like a ton of decks. Because you look at this, you compare it to Super Rod, right, which recovers energy and Pokemon from your discard into your deck, but this recovers them into your hand. So I think this card's pretty good, like really solid. I'm gonna rank them out of 10. And this might be like an 8, honestly. I don't think so, but that seems high. But it seems really solid as recovery because it gets it into your hand. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird comparing it to Super Rod. Also, Super Rod will rotate probably, um, but I actually don't know if that's true. I was gonna say Super Rod will rotate, but I don't know. It might not rotate. It might get reprinted. So we'll see. Anyways, next we got Cassiopeia. This card's, oh, well, no, let's talk about Janine's Secret Technique first. So choose up to 2 of your Darkness Pokemon. For each of those Pokemon, search your deck for a basic Darkness energy and attach it to that Pokemon. Then shuffle your deck. If you attached any energy to your active, that Pokemon is now poisoned. So this is interesting. I need to pull up another card where is this card? Is it here? I know it is coming in Shrouded Fable. Come on, it's got to be here somewhere. That here it is. So from Night Wanderer, which is this set, I saw Okidogi, and its second attack here, it does for Darkness, Colorless. If this Pokemon is poisoned, it does 260. Now, previously, it wasn't super clear how to poison it, although there are a few ways, which weren't terrible. There's the Pekkarunt EX, and there's the Poop on it, and so those are both like pretty solid options. But they don't accelerate energy, so the energy acceleration situation was pretty awkward as well. You have Dark Patch, but that's not great. But now we have Janine's Secret Technique. So I think Janine's Secret Technique plus Okidogi EX is really solid. The issue with this, we look at Professor Sada's Vitality. Excuse me. Yeah, that also draws 3 cards. It is from the discard, which is sometimes worse than the deck, especially early game, but I don't know. I think this card's all right, specifically with Okidogi EX. I think this card in its own right is pretty underwhelming. If you look at this versus Roaring Moon EX, you're in Roaring Moon EX versus Sada's Vitality, you would always play Sada's Vitality because it draws you cards. I gotta imagine maybe one copy of this if you run Lumineon V, but still. And then I don't know. I think this is not a bad card in its own right, but it's not that good. There aren't too many darkness decks right now that I can think. I mean, there's Charizard obviously, but that's not really a darkness deck. And I'm trying to think of what else is like good. They're like the Roaring Moons, and that's about it that I can think of off the top of my head. Which obviously then you can use Sada's, and that's better. But yeah, this is not like a terrible card. I just don't think it has super great uses right now. And also the draw engines are, I mean, they're not bad. They're certainly solid right now, but they're kind of vulnerable to Dragapult as well. So you can't really rely on just like a bunch of barrels or Curlias or something to get your draw engine going because of Dragapult. Not that's not the only reason why it's awkward to get like a bunch of barrels and Squivers in play, and it's a lot of decks or bench space because if you aren't using any draw supporters, then you need to have a lot of Pokemon in play to draw you cards. That's why Gardenia's Vigor isn't good. That's really the main reason. Or there's a lot of reasons, but yeah, I think Janine's Eco Technique's good for Okidogi EX though, and I think it will make Okidogi EX much better. I thought this card was really bad before, like not terrible bad, but just not super interesting, super good. But I think with the new supported Janine's Eco Technique, this will be all right. Lastly, though, we got Cassiopeia. This card is super good. I think so. It says you can only play this if it is the last card in your hand, which I love. By the way, I love this effect on the supporter. Obviously, it's bad. It's like bad to have. This was with Mustard, and Mustard was so fun. And there are two mustards: the Rapid Strike style mustard, or was it Stance? I don't know. There's the two: the Rapid Strike and Single Strike mustard, and those are both so fun and so bad. Especially the Rapid Strike one was just so bad, but really fun. There are some. There's I think Brandon. Is that in format? That might not even be the right card. But there's some like supporter that you can only play if it's the last card in your hand. I remember someone made a deck with it I was looking at, and it was not good. The card because it's just a mediocre supporter. But this supporter is not mediocre because it lets you search your deck for any two cards and put them into your hand and then shuffle your deck. That is super cool. This is really nice for stage 2 decks, obviously. You can go and play this and just get your stage 2, but you really do need to barrel afterwards because, well, you don't have any cards in your hand, right? But in the stage 2 deck, this is really solid. I like this a lot. And it is awkward. It's a little weird to like have to combo into because you need to discard your hand, and we don't have great ways to do that. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We have Ultra Ball. I'm just not super familiar with this right now in the current standard format because I haven't tried to do this right for any particular deck, but it's pretty interesting. I really do like this effect. You can also use, I believe, Polion to draw out of it. There's an Polion from Brilliant Stars that I think is in format still, and it like draws you out of this. So that's all right. I think this is just a pretty cool card. It's a card I really like. It's one I'm definitely going to play in some silly decks. You can play this in United Wings, I guess. I'm not entirely sure the use cases of it outside of stage 2s, which is nice, but then obviously you need to get to that small hand with this card in your hand. So you can use Lumineon V though, and I don't think it'll be that hard to use if you really want to use it, but I don't know if the payoff will be quite good enough. If you look at the mustards, which are like Archie's in the Hole and Max's Hidden Ball Trick, then Cassiopeia has much lower payoff, most likely because it's like those cards let you just do absurd combos, but this doesn't. And I think this is still pretty cool. You can play this in a lot of different decks, and you don't have to use it for stage 2s. You can just use it as a really good search supporter. And right now, search supporters are just so popular. We have Arven and Irida seeing so much play, especially Arven. Honestly, it's overplayed, but it's weird because one, 4 Sealstone's really good, but 2, just getting any item is really nice in a lot of scenarios. But yeah, I think this card's really fun. It's the one I'm most excited for. The one I'm not most excited for is Dangerous Slayer. This card's so bad. But yeah, anyway, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, commenting down below your thoughts, and subscribing if you enjoyed. Also, hit the bell if you want to be notified when my content drops, because I always review new cards. I always try to do them soon, but when there's like actually enough cards to reveal, because I didn't want to make a video just talking about the Genesect and the Blood Moon Ursaluna. But I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.